Welcome back. It was a setback to the LGBTQ community as after a lengthy court battle, the Supreme Court's 5-judge bench decided against marriage and adoption rights for same-sex couples in India. There were as many as 21 pleas in front of the court which were bunched together. It was a split 3-2 judgment where the majority deemed that civil union or adoption rights cannot be granted by the court to same-sex couples. These are some of the salient points of the majority judgment which will of course be effective. First up, that there is no constitutional or fundamental right to civil unions. It also has gone on to say that the court cannot make any changes to the Special Marriages Act to further gender-neutral terms to be used. The court has also opined that no rights for adoption can be given to queer couples to adopt children jointly, and that centre's high-powered committee will examine concerns of same-sex couples on other accounts, which are rights that are born out of unions as well. The big question, of course, now that the 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court has rejected this, is the ball in Parliament's court, and is this an issue that the Indian government or Parliament will be willing to take on? Let's go across to our guest joining us. Niharika Karanjwala is lawyer and petitioner in this case. Sayantika Majumdar and Nikita Nik Prakash are LGBTQ activists and couple. Shashank Shekharja is lawyer and petitioner. Let me go across to Nikita and Sayantika, and both of you can take the question one by one. Your disappointments with this verdict, what do you think is the way forward for same-sex couples?
So obviously we are devastated today. This was a major setback for us because personally I'm angry, I'm disappointed because this is not just a setback for the LGBT community. This is a setback for India. Instead of taking a step forward is what we were hoping for, we have taken a step backwards. Though, yes, the ball, like you said, is in the Parliament's court as well, and it's been thrown back to the Parliament's court after we had placed a lot of hope in the apex judiciary body of our country, hoping that they would see the verity of these claims and give us a favorable judgment. In fact, if you see the beginning of the proceedings as well today, there were a lot of favorable comments from Chief Justice of India as well as Justice Call, which were indicating or hinting towards, at the very least, civil union, if not changes to the Special Marriage Act, although that was completely out of the question, deemed out of the question. But there was still some hope. But now it has completely been taken out of the court's hand and given to the Parliament, and that is very scary for us because we have not seen any movement from the Parliament or from the government, as we know currently, in favor of the LGBT community so far. We have not.
So you answered both of my questions. Can I ask your partner a different question then? What do you make of the arguments that have been given in court and what the judgment then entails? That, it is not possible to change the Special Marriages Act, and also that marriage is not a fundamental right, and while there is the freedom to choose your partner, there is no there is nothing binding on the government or the state to recognize that union. Your thoughts on that argument? Or that judgment?
So the biggest and most sad part about this is everybody else is getting the choice to get married to their respective partners, but we are missing out on that as Indian citizens. While we are paying taxes, we are doing all the other things, then why should we miss out on this basic right? And of course it is very important for us because it comes with so many perks. So there are rights which you get with just the stamp of marriage, right? We can get insurance for each other, we can buy property together. These are the struggles that we are going through. And what really hurts is the nation is not understanding you, the law system is not understanding you. There are not enough people talking about it, but we are really affected by this.
Yeah, and these points were brought up by the Chief Justice himself when he did allude at civil union. He did mention things like adoption as well. He did mention in favor of having a structure in place, a union where adoption rights are given irrespective of the marital
Okay.
status of a couple. So these were put forth, igniting some hope in us, but in the end, it was snuffed out.
Okay.
Purely, it's interesting
Could
that
the way forward be more incremental changes? Let me take that question to Niharika as well. Niharika, could the way forward be that, for example, there are little bit of incremental changes that are sought for example, this committee by the government that is going to look into certain rights that otherwise flow out of unions, but the court has agreed, at least on this it has been unanimous, that one, there should be no discrimination against same-sex couples, and the government should look at what further rights can be given to them even if their union is not recognized as a civil union. Do you believe that those incremental changes in the appropriate laws could be the way forward now?
It'll be something. Obviously, all of the petitioners and we as the lawyers of petitioners are disappointed with today's verdict, as we had great hopes for positive judgment emanating from the Honorable Court itself. That being said, yes, sometimes change does have to move in small increments, frustrating though that may be. We saw that in 377. We are seeing that again today. As you said, every judge on the honorable bench today has pointed out the significance of removing discrimination against members of the LGBTQ community and have pointed out how significant that is. Furthermore, none of the honorable judges have today made any move to suggest something to the effect that marriage is not for same-sex couples or is something that is unsustainable. It's simply a question of the framework and what the proper institution to put it in place is.
No, I believe the CJI did say in his statements that it is incorrect to say that marriage is a static and unchanging institution.
Exactly.
He batted for adoption rights for same-sex couples. Absolutely. Even out of a union. So, of course, that point was made, but it was not a majority judgment. I don't want to dwell on that.
It's not a majority judgment.
I want to look forward to what the way forward could be. For example, being able to have insurance payouts for your partners, even if you're not married to them, to have them be included in other things that usually family is involved in. Do you think it would be better to maybe target those incremental changes?
I think it's important that these incremental changes, things like the Honorable Court mentioned today, ration cards, consultation by doctors in hospitals when it comes to things like determination of final wishes, things like that. All of that I think is very important from a practical perspective because these are things that affect people and affect couples on a day-to-day basis. It's things that impact people on a day-to-day basis. That being said, I certainly hope that, as was suggested during the hearing, when the state argued that this is an ambit that should be looked into by the state itself, I do hope that the question of granting marital rights or rights equivalent to those of a heterosexual marriage, will also be considered by whatever committee the state puts in place here, because I don't think that would be out of place at all.
I'm not sure if this committee can look into that, because I think the court, again, was unanimous on the fact that the court cannot make laws, cannot tinker with laws. And in this case, they don't even want to be seen as directing the government to do a certain thing. Absolutely. So the committee will look into other rights the same-sex couples can get. Plus, of course, the question can be put to the government of the day or to Parliament at large, whether they would like to relook at this. On that note, let me also go across to Shashank Jha. Shashank, why do you think this is, do you feel this is the right judgment that has come out, even if it's a 3-2 split majority judgment? If so, why?
Namaste, Shivani ji and my fellow panelists. Shivani ji, I was one of the lawyer in this particular case, and I guess Supreme Court was right, and with all sympathies to the petitioners, they were wrong in seeking such recognition from Supreme Court, because of the fact that Constitution of India actually limits the power of the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court, or for that point, any writ court in this country can only interpret a law, and for that point, make it unconstitutional if it is wrong as per the eye of the law. For example, they declared 377 unconstitutional with support of government at that point of time. So they can do that, but they cannot make a new law, and that has been debated long back in Constituent Assembly in the first place. Now, coming to the second point, what was the verdict today? The verdict was very simple. There is a 5-0 judgment in this case which says that no, Supreme Court cannot grant them the right to have marriage between homosexual couple. The 3-2 verdict is only for the adoption, because CGI led 2 judges were in favor that the homosexual couple can also have adoption right.
Okay.
However, the other 3 judges led by Justice Bhatt clearly stated that if we grant this right, then we do not even know what other rights may violate it, because here we are talking about a child. Now if a child is being adopted, we do not even know as to what will be his property rights, what will be his educational rights, etc., etc.
Yeah, so, while one understands, Shekhar, that there are, of course, many other laws that are going to be impacted if this right was to be given, and it became almost like a, like a crosswire of sorts and a cascading effect that possibly could have been out of control for anybody. My final, I have a final minute left. Don't you think that regardless of this, there would be a responsibility on the Parliament now to look at this? Of course, the Parliament is the right place to make and pass those laws. Should the Parliament take this up now?
Shivani, I feel that we as a country needs to have everything uniform, but rather than starting it from gender neutral things, we should first go with religion neutral stuff, and that is why uniform civil code is in picture. Once that passes, then we can look into these aspects, because why I'm talking about religion is because of the fact that we do not even know the minimum age of marriage in this country as of now. For different religions it is different, so we need to at least clear that aspect before moving into the homosexual aspect as of now, because when homosexual will come into picture, then surely there are 150 plus laws which will be affected. So I guess that will require more effort by the Parliament.
Very quickly, I have 20 seconds, please. Very quickly.
With due respect to our fellow panelists, I would like to add that while there is a large intersection of religion and every other identity in our country, but when it comes to the matter of homosexuality, it was never being sought in a religious context itself, which is why Special Marriage Act was is there in our country in the first place, where it does not, when it comes to the issue of marriage,
no. Shivani, just 5 seconds.
Yes, 5 seconds only.
Petitions were filed seeking recognition under Hindu Marriage Act.
Yes.
I was one of the interveners there.
Yes, that's true. Like I said, it's a complicated situation. On terms of gender fluidity, there was, of course, the question of the Special Marriages Act. There is the question we cannot deny on personal laws in the country. And then, of course, our rights that are granted specifically to women. What happens to those when you have a same-sex couple union? Now, all of those questions have to be looked into, but it's a journey perhaps that will have to be taken in a different manner. I thank our guests for joining us. On that note, it's a wrap from me.